We'll start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are having Panchadasi chapter 1, Tattva Viveka Prakaranam for our group study. Tattva means the reality. What is the reality behind this whole universe is the topic for discussion. We have finished 2 verses in this last session. Today we'll start with the 3rd verse. Primarily this chapter focuses on Taittiriya Upanishad, the Panchakosha principles. And as you know very well, Vidyaranya is an expert teacher and he has a very unique style of presenting the ultimate reality in different ways. With this short introduction, let me go straight to the 3rd verse. The 3rd verse.
Shabdasparshadayo vedya Shabdasparshadayo vedya Vaichitya jagare pratak Vaichitya jagare pratak Tato vibhakta tat samvid Tato vibhakta tat samvid Aikarupyanna bidhyate Aikarupyanna bidhyate.
As I had given you an introduction last week, the first 2 verses are just introduction. And then from verse number 3 to 7, we are going to see what is the reality which we are talking about. The reality which we are talking about means there is some common factor between me and the world. This common factor in Upanishads is called as Brahman. All the Upanishads are trying to teach us this commonness which exists between me and the world. There is something common. The eyes cannot reveal that. The 6 pramanams which we have, Pratyaksha pramanam, Anumana pramanam, Arthapatti, Upalapti, Shabda pramanam, Laukika Shabda pramanam, they all cannot reveal what is this higher nature, what is this principle, what is this reality. Now, this reality in Taittiriya Upanishad is defined as Satchid Ananda principle. And this is what we are going to study from verse number 3 to 7. In fact, 3 to 9, I would say even Ananda is discussed. Maybe 8 and 9 is also Ananda principle. So probably we'll look at 3 to 9. From 3 to 9 is this Satchidananda principle. Here, in this particular verse, what Vidyaranya says is that all of us, we have knowledge of the world. See how beautifully he is crystallizing the idea about our experiences. So what is our whole life? our whole life consists of gathering knowledge about the world, about ourselves. And how do we gather this knowledge? Through the sense organs. This is Tattva Bodha principle, which we have studied in Tattva Bodha. We have sense organs, we have the external world. The external world is nothing but it is vrittis. Vrittis means thoughts or stimuli which come through the sense organs to our mind. Okay, so this, if you want to understand Upanishads, you must keep this knowledge in the background. That the world is nothing but it is made up of sense objects and sense organs interacting between the two with the help of the mind. This is what Lord Krishna beautifully summarizes in chapter 3, 4, 5 of Bhagavad Gita. The same idea is there in Dakshinamurti Stotram. The same idea is there in Vichara Sagara, a higher text. So, the way Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita describe the world is quite different. It is a very subtle way of defining the world, defining the higher self. Because this is the way, this is the path. That is why Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, they all talk about preparation of the mind. The topic is such that it requires a very sharp, subtle mind. So, in the waking state, what happens is we experience the world, and the world consists of sense objects. The sense objects do not enter the sense organs directly, but it comes in the form of thoughts, and it is analyzed by the mind. So far, if you have understood, then we can go to the next level. How does the mind get the power? If you have studied Keno Upanishad, you know that there is something called as Shrotrasya Shrotram, Manoso, mind of the mind, ear of the ear, eye of the eye, tongue of the tongue. There is some principle. That principle is called as consciousness. Okay? Consciousness is one singular principle which is the power behind the entire mind. The sense organs are different. The eye is different, the ears are different, the tongue is different, the skin is different, the nose is different. The sense organs are different, and the sense objects are also different. But what is common in all of them is consciousness. You are aware of form and color. You are aware of smell. You are aware of the soft and the hard touch. You are aware of the sour taste, bitter taste in your tongue. You are aware of the sound, loud sound and the soft sound. Awareness is the same, but the objects of the sense organs are different. That is what Vidyaranya wants to say in this particular mantra. Okay, see how much of information is packed in one verse. The main text, Tattva, means reality. The reality is called as Sat, Chit, and Ananda. In the third verse, We are talking about Chit principle, consciousness principle. And what does this say? The nature of the cell is Satchidananda. Self means what? It is a higher principle. I can't see that. With the help of our sense organs, we cannot know, we cannot see this self. We cannot see this consciousness. Swami Vidyaranya was mathematically very strong and his logic was extremely very, very good. So you can see the logic he uses in all the chapters. Philosophy generally moves from the known world of sense organs and sense objects, and it moves into the unknown world of Brahman, or it moves into the unknown world of Atma. You must be familiar with two words, Atma and Brahman, which we will be using throughout this chapter. Atma means the inner essence of all of us. Who are you? In reality, Upanishads says you are the consciousness principle. That consciousness is called as Atma. What is the world? The world is nothing but existence with name and form. That existence principle in the world is called as Sat. That Sat is called as Brahman. That Sat is called as the ultimate reality behind the world. The Chit is ultimate reality behind the individual. So what is this world? The world consists of Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. This is Tattva Bodha teaching. Entire world, whenever you say Jagat, it only means five things. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. What is the Shabda? These are very common things. I'm not going to dwell too much on this. I'm hoping that all of you understand the simple Sanskrit words. Vid means to know. Veda means knowledge. What is the Veda consists of? Veda consists of the knowledge of the higher reality, which is behind Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. The sense organ for Shabda is ear. Very simple. And this Shabda is a property of the element, which is Akasha, space. I'm just revising Tattva Bodha here. Each element is connected with a sense organ and a sense object. This is how the Veda describes the world. This is not the way science will describe. Science will go to protons, neutrons, and everything is, a particle, and that is the scientific way. But here in Vedanta, the world consists of five elements: Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. And each of this is connected with the sense objects and the sense organ. The Vayu Tattvam is connected to the touch, the feeling of touch, and it is connected to the skin. Agni Tattvam, the fire, is connected to the form. Whenever you see a form, you must remember it is nothing but that it is it is the Agni Tattva. It is the fire element which is getting converted into a particular form. And then that form is seen not by the ears, but it is seen by the eye. So the eye has got a direct link with the Agni Tattva. See, unless you understand the tattvam in this way, the tattvam, the reality of the world in this way, then only you will be able to appreciate the tattvam, which is the higher nature, which is consciousness, awareness, chit, and which is sat, which is pure existence. So the ashraya means adhishtanam. For this entire world is the Panchabhutas. So whatever word which we use is only describing name and the form and function of these 5 elements. That is how Chandogya Upanishad defines the world as Nama Rupa Sambandha, Nama Rupa Kriya Sambandha. When do I see? In Jagrat, we see this world of Panchabhutas in this fashion. All of us are in the waking state, and we see the world of 5 elements in the waking state. In the dream state, what happens? All those impressions which the impressions which we have gathered in the waking state, they all lie in the causal form. And in the dream state of the mind, that impressions are projected. That is what we call it as a dream. Vaichitra Jagaras Prithak. This whole waking state is a transaction, a vyapara, between the sense organs and the sense objects. That is what is said in this verse. Each sense organ brings a certain feature of the world into my mind. A red rose, a fragrant rose, a soft rose, the color, smell, they don't mix with each other. They are separate. The soft touch and the form, yellow color, it doesn't mix, it is separate. So the entire world ultimately is consisting of Shabda. Why Shabda? Because ultimately when we transact in the world, we use words. Apart from this 5 elements which consist of the world, which is a matter universe, there is a consciousness which is different from the matter, and it is the seer of the world, the experiencer of the world. See how deep we are going now. See from where we started and how each and every small little thing we are converting them into knowledge, and ultimately we are saying the knowledge principle, vishayi, or the knower consciousness, the seer, the chaitanyam is one. Objects are different, vishayas are different. The known objects, the known world is different, but the seer is one. Dritrisya Viveka, if you remember, that objects are different, which is seeing it is one. The sense organs are different, but the mind which is perceiving them is all one. Behind every mind, there is one consciousness. That is the ultimate reality. See how we are getting into the nature of this world. And once we understand that that is the nature of the world, then my mind will be able to hold on to this principle as the real nature of the world as well as of all of us. Tatho vibhakta sumbitu. The knower of consciousness is the ultimate entity in this universe. Okay? I have put some slides for the revision of verse 1 and 2. I don't want to go through the revision portion here. You can read them whenever you are revising this text. Okay? So this third verse deals with waking state. The fourth verse, the next verse, we are going to see is of the dream state. What happens in the dream? And the fifth verse, what happens in the sleep state? So, in the waking state, we are seeing the sense objects, going through the sense organs, reaching the mind, and behind the mind, there is consciousness. That's all. That is the essence of the third verse. Consciousness knows without an instrument that objects exist. What does this mean? We know sound through instrumentation of the sense organs and the mind. See, to see the world of sense objects, we require the instrument called as the sense organs. To see the sense organs, we need the instrument called the mind, antakarana. To see the mind, is there an instrument required? No. In the presence of consciousness, the mind becomes aware. Whenever the mind is awake, the consciousness reveals a wakeful mind. Whenever the mind is in the semi-passive form, in the dream state, consciousness reveals the dream state. When the mind goes to sleep and there is nothing in the world which we are able to experience, which is the sleep state, consciousness is revealing that. There is no change in the consciousness, therefore we call it nirvikara swarupaha. Nirvikara means what? Changeless condition of Chaitanya. It is an eternally existing principle. See, these are all the fundamentals of Vedanta. If you understand this, then you will say, I understand the Upanishads very easily. Bhagavad Gita is a cakewalk for me. But this is the way to understand. We are going very deep in all these sessions. If you don't understand, you can ask me at the end of the class. But try to pick up the depth of knowledge in these verses. So consciousness is the ultimate knower. With the help of instrument, it presents the world to me. In the absence of the instrument, there is consciousness exists, but then what is my experience? The world is not there. World is there, world is not there. World is there when the mind is active. World is not there when the mind is passive. You should understand this phenomena very well. You should assimilate this knowledge. Then consciousness, I am that consciousness, will be clear to you. This is a very, very deep knowledge. This chart which I have presented here, consciousness is the ultimate knower. It knows the presence of the world. It knows the absence of the world. So at the absolute level, I can say I am Chaitanyam, consciousness, eternal, timeless, spaceless, mindless, bodiless. All the verses you have learned in Upanishads, Ashabdam, Sparsham, Rupam, Gandham, all those verses, if you try to remember, You will only understand those verses if you understand what is presented in this 48th slide. And it must go into the subconscious mind. Sound is presented to the ears. The ears become the knower. Form is presented to the eyes. The eyes become the knower. All put together by the mind. Therefore, I say, I hear, I see, I touch, I smell. Who is that I which is putting all this together? It is the ego I, which is the mind. This Chaitanyam is called as aparoksha jnanam. Aparoksha jnana means what? It is direct knowledge. It is without any instrument. That knowing principle is me. That is what is the ultimate lesson. In third verse itself, Swami Vidyaranya teaches us the essence behind this whole chapter. See how deep is this verse? Very important. Go into the depth. Then you don't require any meditation. In the class, when we are understanding this verse itself, you can just close your eyes and say, I am that Sat Chit Ananda principle. But what is that Chit principle is what is here. Your mind has to go through this depth of analysis of different states of consciousness, waking, dream, sleep. Your mind has to dwell in that. When your mind dwells in that, what happens is you reach your ultimate nature. Swaswarupa. That Swaswarupa is called as the self. And the knowledge of that self is the knowledge of Chaitanya or knowledge of Atma or knowledge of consciousness or existence. The knower is changeless in all perceptions. Very important point. Knower principle. That is why, you see, I know the world today. I knew the world yesterday. I knew the world when I was 5 years old. Same world is coming, going, coming, going, coming, going. What it comes in the waking, goes off in the sleep, comes in the waking, goes off in the sleep. So who am I ultimately? Am I that consciousness which is revealing this world? Or am I this ego coming and going ego, mind? Whenever the mind is there, body is seen. But what we have to go is go beyond the body and mind. Then you can see what is the oneness. What is the oneness between the individual and the cosmos? One knower is what the Veda wants to reveal, which Swami Vidyaranya wants to reveal through this chapter, which is called Viveka, discrimination of the real one consciousness with the rest of the world, with the body, mind, and the world. So 3 points are there in verse number 3. In the waking state, we are talking about the waking state in the verse number 3. The 5 objects, experiences are different. Experienced objects are different. The subject is different from the objects, and the subject is of the same nature in all perceptions. 3 points you should remember. Ultimately, if you ask today in the end of the class, you should say, I understood verse number 3. What did I understand in verse number 3? Number 1. The world of objects is different. That is lesson number 1. Eyes are seeing form and color. Ears are hearing sound. They're all different. That is the first point. The second point is what? Object is different than the subject. Subject is different than the object. Because objects are made up of matter, the subject principle is the spiritual principle, the consciousness principle. That is the second point. What is the third point? In all perceptions of eyes or ears or the tongue or the subject is the same. It never changes. The subject I, which is perceiving form, is the same subject which is hearing the sound outside of a truck or a car going. Same subject. That subject means what? Subject means it is the mind together with the consciousness. That is where your ultimate knowledge should end. What is the subject? Mind plus consciousness. And in the sleep state, what happens? Mind goes away. What remains is the consciousness. And that consciousness, I own it as my real nature. This is the difference between real and unreal. Unreal is what? The world of sense objects, the world of sense organs, and antakaranam. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasagandha are conditionings for the experiencer pramata. Conditioning means what? It is superimposed. Superimposed means what? When I close my eyes, I don't see any form, color. Complete blank is there. When I close my ears, there is no sound. So pramata means what? Pramata means it is the knower of the world. What is Sakshi? Sakshi is the witness principle without the world. That is what is called as my nature in the sleep state. In the waking state, I am a pramata. All of us. Because pramata consists of mind and consciousness. And mind means what? Sense organs are already there. Suppose you put in 5 different bottles, different colored, we put water, okay, in 5 different bottles. The color of the bottle is red, blue, yellow. Water is transparent, it is the same. Even though the water is the same, what does the eye perceive? I perceive a red bottle, red colored bottle, red water. The water is called as upahitam. The bottle is called as upadhi. Similarly, in this body, the consciousness awareness is called as upahitam, enclosed. Upahitam means enclosed. Upadhi means enclosure. Body is enclosure for the consciousness. In all bodies, consciousness is one. Where do you get this knowledge from? If you have studied Bhagavad Gita, where does this knowledge come that all the bodies have one spiritual principle? Can you guess which chapter and which verse? Chapter 13, Kshetra Jnanam. Kshetrajna is one, Kshetram is many. The second and third verse of chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so that was a very deep thought process explained by Swami Vidyaranya in verse number 3. That was the waking state experiences of sense objects, sense organs, mind, and consciousness. This is like the Mandukya Upanishad. For people who have done Mandukya Upanishad before, the waking state is the phenomena. Dream state is also a phenomena. It happens. I don't control it. That is the way the Lord has made this world. Okay. Now, let's go to the next state, which is the fourth verse.
तथा स्वप्नेत्र तु तथा स्वप्नेत्र तु न स्थिरं जागरे स्थिरं न स्थिरं जागरे स्थिरं तद्भेदो तस्तयोः संविद् तद्भेदो तस्तयोः संविद् एकरूपा न भिद्यते एकरूपा न भिद्यते.
All these verses are gems of Vedanta. Each verse of this section is a very, very important verse. All these verses. The third verse gives you the ultimate reality in the waking state, how it is, how it expresses. In the dream state, how does Vidyaranya explain the dream state of experience? First of all, he says, remember the waking state and the dream state are two different states. What is the difference? Next question will be, why do you say waking state is different than the dream state? Vidyaranya says, the dream state is a transient state, temporary state. The same dream doesn't come again and again. There will be small differences here and there. But what happens to the waking state? Yesterday I was in Singapore or India or America. Today also I am in Singapore, India or America. The waking state, the waking world doesn't seem to change. The dream state is a transient state. It is not permanent. Compared to the dream world, the waking world is more permanent compared to their dream world. That is the first point he says. The second point is more important. What is that? He says the perceiver of the waking world is the same in the dream world. There is no change. Even though the states are changing, but the perceiver does not change. That is why we say, I went to sleep yesterday, I will get up tomorrow, or today I got up, and tonight I will sleep again. Again tomorrow I will get up. What is that I which went to sleep? It is the mind plus consciousness. The mind plus consciousness, but which portion of the mind and consciousness is changing and which is always the same? The consciousness portion is always the same. The mind is changing. The sense organs bring the sense objects tomorrow in a different way. I see a different world. Things have changed in the whole world. Monday has become Tuesday. Tuesday has become Wednesday. Wednesday has become Thursday. On Wednesdays, we have a class. On Thursdays, we have no class. So on Thursdays, I experience myself without the class. Again, next week, Wednesday comes, again, I am in the class. So what is changing is the world, but consciousness has not changed. I'm still the experiencer. So in the mind instrument, there is a consciousness which remains the same throughout our from birth to death. Not only in this birth and death, also in all births, my consciousness has remained the same. There is no change in that consciousness. Body changes, therefore I'll say I took a rebirth. Tatha swapne. So that is the essence of the dream state, which is said in the fourth month. 3 points apply to swapna. Like 3 points apply to waking state. What are the 3 points? The objects in this dream state are different from me. Like we said, the objects in the waking state are different from me. The same principle we apply. What is the second thing? Same principle which we applied in the waking state, apply again. The knower of the world is independent from the world. That is what here he says, Tatho Vibhakta Samvita. Very important. See, this is step-by-step understanding of Vedanta. Even though you may have studied Upanishads, but when you come to Panchadasi, you are going into very great depths. That is the beauty of Vidyaranya. He makes us think. And he has a beautiful structure of presenting the world to us. So that was the second point. The experiencer is different. Subject remains the same, unchanging, irrespective of the objects. So in meditation, every week we have a meditation at the end of the class. And then what are we trying to see there? Ultimately, where do we arrive in meditation? In meditation, we arrive ultimately at our changeless inner essence, which is called as Atma. Whatever we are studying here, we are trying to experience the same in us. Dreamer, waker, sleeper, the same consciousness remains changelessly, irrespective of the objective changes in the world. By chitriya vishaya samyak pratak. Samyak pratak means one consciousness, changeless consciousness, and changing world. Avagame. Avagama means the objective world. You see the objective world in the dream and waking. In the waking, the objects seem to be sthiram, stationary, permanent. I wake up in the same bed. I go to bed in the same bed, and I wake up in the same bed in the morning. Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasagandha. I smelled a rose yesterday from the plant outside my house. I will smell the same rose tomorrow. So the waking state seems to be permanent compared to the dream world. Dream is what? Asthiram. Asthiram means it is not fixed. It's not stable. Suddenly I see Himalayas, Ganges, but they are in the dream state. That Ganges is not permanent. Tonight, I will not see Ganges. I may see something else. I may see snow. The consciousness subject does not change when the prapanchas of the world changes. This is all the same principle of Mandukya Upanishad. Om represents waking, dreams, sleep. The world of Om, A-Oma changes. But the consciousness, the turiya Atma, never changes. Same thing which Vidyaranya is putting up here in a very, very crisp manner. In the beginning itself, he is introducing what he wants to ultimately tell us in the end. Consciousness being different from the sense objects, but it does not change. I experience the past, I experience the present. Past and present, they come together where? In that consciousness. In that consciousness, pure consciousness, that is what we experience in sleep. In the waking, there was a past waking state and a current waking state. But in the sleep, beyond the three states, is my real self, which is undifferentiated. Undifferentiated means it is one homogeneous mass of consciousness. See, these are very deep verses. So try to understand these slides. When I'm saying all this, you will be able to figure out what is the essence. And while the teaching goes on itself, you should be able to reach and understand your own awareness principle. Ultimate teaching happens during the class because that Atma is there in a changeless fashion while you're listening to the class. The words are changing, but that experiencer consciousness is the same. It never changes. So comprehension, cognition in thatness and thisness is one Chaitanya. We say that house and this table. Whatever is in front of the eyes, we say this. Whatever is far away from the eyes, we say that. This, tat and idam, this and that depends on the eye. Eye stands on the body. That is what he wants to make it very clear. Waking and dream are the same with reference to variety in objects. Same is what? One consciousness principle is the same in both. The objects are different, but the subject is the same. Okay? This is just a revision. Again, I'm not going through the slides, but you can go through them. This is just for you to pick up what you have learned. Consciousness is called as my intrinsic nature. Intrinsic nature means real nature. Real nature means it never changes. Body, mind, and the world is incidental nature. That is why I always say we are spiritual beings eternally having a temporary human experience of waking, dream, sleep. Waking, dream, sleep. All these three states are coming and going without any intervention from me. From me means what? Without any intervention from that consciousness which is always changeless. There is a controller of this waking, dream, and sleep. That is what is called as Ishvara. That is what is called as the Maya Shakti. Okay? So I hope these lessons are clear. Subject is different than the object. Subject remains the same in spite of the objects being changing. Okay, I have gone through this waking state and dream state. This is just for those people who want to do revision. You can go through these 8 points again and again. Okay. Next, we go to the deep sleep state. Deep sleep state, I will introduce it to you today, but maybe next week I'll try to complete it. It's a long explanation. With each of this, I have got some revision. It gives you some more points. Let's listen to the fifth mantra.
सुप्तोत्तिष्ठस्य सौषुप्त सुप्तोत्तिष्ठस्य सौषुप्त तमो बोधो भवेत् स्मृतिः तमो बोधो भवेत् स्मृतिः सा चावबुद्धविषयाव सा चावबुद्धविषयाव बुद्धं तत्तदा तमः बुद्धं तत्तदा तमः.
In meditation, we have to go through these states and recall what happens. It's possible, and that is why they say you have to do Omkara meditation. All this knowledge which we are gathering in chapter 1 of Panchadasi, which talks about waking, dream, and sleep, which talk about Sat, Chit, Ananda, you should be able to assimilate that knowledge in yourself. In sleep state, what does Vidyaranya say? He brings out one point. What is that point? He says that in the waking state, I can recall what happened to me in the deep sleep. I can understand there was an experience in which I didn't experience anything. So it is from this expression, it is clear that even in the sleep state, there is presence of something in me which doesn't change. It is the same thing which is coming in the waking state, and again it exists in the dream state. There is a changeless lower consciousness. Suptosi tasya. Not a person in deep sleep, but the person who was woken up. What is his cognition or perception or awareness now after waking up? Sushupto tamaha. I experience tamas. You see, all of us, we experience no world in our sleep. That is called as tamas. Many people, they don't understand. They can easily understand rajas because the mind is fluctuating. Sattvic also they can understand because when the mind quietens down, they're able to feel it. But tamas, many people don't understand. What is this tamas? Here, Vidyaranya beautifully says that our experience in the deep sleep state of nothingness is tamas. That is the third guna of Panchabhutas. Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter talks about three gunas, which is together called as Maya Shakti. Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna. How do you define the mind? Because mind is something not visible to us. But Veda defines the mind as a combination of these three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Tamas is experienced by us in the deep sleep state. They say Rajas is experienced by us in the dream state. Rajoguna. It is Rajoguna of the, it is throwing up all the vrittis in the dream state. Sattva guna in the waking state, because waking state, the knowledge principle, the knowledge is very, very high of the world. So there is darkness. Tamaha means darkness. Darkness means absence of knowledge. See, darkness with reference to the world, you can talk about light and darkness. A tube light is burning in my room, and then I put off, then that is, I off the switch, it becomes dark. This is at a physical level. At a subtle level, what is darkness and what is light? Knowledge is light, ignorance is darkness. Deep sleep, we all have the same experience. What is the experience? I didn't know anything in my sleep. Is that your experience or not? Everyone who is attending this class will say yes, 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 yes. And that is what is called as tamoguna. So all of us, we experience tamoguna or not? Yes, we experience tamoguna. When? Not in the waking state. Waking state, we are very, very much aware of the world. We are all a mixture of sattva, rajas, and tamas. This is what we learned in the 14th chapter. If you have not understood, go back to the 14th chapter, you will have very clear idea. You are very dear to me. The husband will tell his wife, or a daughter, or a son, a child, a small little child. You're very, I love you so much in the waking state. But in the sleep state, what happens? Neither I, the body, mind is there, neither you, the child who is being experienced is there. What do I experience? I experience complete darkness. So a good sleep is where we don't experience anything. Suppose somebody wakes you in the morning, asks you, how was your sleep? Oh, it was very good. When you say my sleep was very good, what does it mean? I didn't experience anything. Suppose I had experienced very bad dreams. Then you will say I didn't sleep well. My mind was very much agitated, Rajoguna. Something in the world, it was just projecting. So deep sleep state is not direct perception with the senses, but it is perception of only the mind's projections. Senses can only know Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha of the waking state. In the sleep state, the sense organs are closed. I don't know anything is my experience. So from this, there is an inference we draw. What is the inference? The inference is there is someone who is changelessly present in the sleep state, dream state, and the waking state. And that changeless self is called as Sakshi, Atma. Okay, so we'll stop with this slide here. Next week we'll start with this 58th slide of this verse, and then we'll continue. We are not able to finish this particular verse, but we'll continue with this 58th slide next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamathaya Purnamevavasishyade. Shanti. 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 There are no messages in the chat. So if you have any questions, Shanmugam will be unmuting all. So you can raise your questions directly.
So Vishal, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Vishal, go ahead.
So in the dreaming state,
Yeah,
whatever we dream of,
yeah.
does that create karma or does that come under karma? For
No.
example,
Yeah.
if I dream of murdering somebody, or if I dream of doing something good, donating somebody,
Yeah.
will that create karma?
No. Dream is only a bhokta. It's only an experiencer of your past punyam or papa. There is no karta involved in the dream. It is
One second,
only
I'll just write that.
only a bhokta in the sense that
Okay.
some of your punya papams are just getting exhausted. That's all. There is no will involved. Only when there is a will involved and you become a karta and a bhokta in the waking state, you will gather punyam and papa. There is no will involved in the dream state because there is no control of your mind.
So the other point was that even the waking state,
Yeah.
this is my understanding, I'm from a higher, very high level, even the waking state is a dreaming state. It's a dreaming with eyes open. And according to me, I may be wrong, completely wrong. I'm just saying everything is a dream as far as the Brahma is concerned. So even our waking state of the jiva is the waking state is dreaming with eyes open, and dreaming is dream with eyes closed. So therefore, it doesn't matter whether the eyes are open or closed. In both the situations, we will be somewhere under karma, and that's why they say that don't even think of something bad sometimes. When we say na, don't because actions. See, actions. Actions are not. Even thinking is important. For example, if I don't kill somebody, if I kill somebody, the courts will put me to jail. That's a different issue. But even thinking without act creates something, even though there is a will or not will. According to me, in dreams we don't have a will. Even in the waking, even in the waking we don't have a will. According to me, I mean I may be wrong. So this because why we don't have a will? Because there is no separate entity in our waking state which chooses. And therefore, whether we are awake with eyes open or we are dreaming with eyes closed, both from the perspective of the Brahma are dreams. And there is no choice in either.
You see, Vishal, if you are looking it from that standpoint of Sakshi or Atma, you are 100% right. Then there is no question of even waking or dream as such because it is false, mithya. Only when you consider it from the waking state and then you say punyam or papam or with reference to what are you saying that there is some exhaustion of prarabdha karma and all that. Only with reference to in the waking state you are making that statement. So when you are in the higher state of Brahman or Sakshi, then all these are nothing. The whole, whether it is waking, dream or sleep, is all mithya. So when you are your standpoint has to be extremely clear. From the Brahman standpoint, nothing exists except Brahman. It is non-dual reality. The moment you talk about punyam, papam, waking state, dream state, everything, then you're only talking it from the body level. From the physical body level, you're trying to analyze. In my dream state yesterday, but who are you talking about? The waker. The waker is talking about the dreamer.
So my submission is that whether we are waking or whether we are dreaming, we are not in control. The dreams also we are not in control. And in waking also.
No. That is when you're looking at it from a higher standpoint, which is now when you are making this statement that I have no control in the waking state, I have no control in the dream state. I have no control in the sleep state. Who is that I you're referring to? Are you referring to the body or are you referring to consciousness? If you're referring
Jiva.
to
I'm talking about the jiva.
no, the jiva has lost itself of jivatvam. It has become Brahman. If you say I'm jiva and I'm trying to analyze, then you're not, you're still in the loop of waker, dreamer, sleeper.
No, I'm saying the jiva has no control of what is going to happen through him. Therefore, my only small point is that in the dream also, even though
Yes.
we are bhokta, and in the dream we may also be doing the karta, even though physically we are not doing the karta through the body, but in the dream we are doing some karta. In the dream,
There is a
because
dream. There is a dream body which is doing the dream action, and all this is not. It is all in the mind. It is the mind. It is all vrittis. The whole dream is nothing but your mind.
yes, sir.
So it is the mind which is throwing all these projections of the karta, bhokta, and all that.
Yes, sir. And therefore, since the mind is under the law of karma,
Yes.
and that is my specific question, that even the dream is associated with the mind. And therefore, my specific
You're 100% right. 100% right. Dream is connected to the mind.
and therefore, whether the mind is doing something with open eyes or closed eyes doesn't matter. That is my specific question. Well, that's my
You're right.
that's my
You see, when you are making this statement, that whether the statement or what you are making is, I am awareness, consciousness. Mind with sense organs is undergoing law of karma. Mind with sense organs, both acting, is called as waking state. Mind without sense organs acting is called as the dream state.
yes, sir.
Mind totally absent, passive condition is called as tamoguna of the mind. That is also only the mind.
Yes, sir.
100% right. So waking state, if you say, is mind plus sense organs active, 100% right. That is what Mandukya Upanishad is saying very clearly. That is
So
why it is a waking mind and the sense organs.
My submission is that if I dream of I'm murdering somebody, that will also create some kind of karma, even though I may not be physically using my hands to kill somebody, but the mental killing is equivalent. It doesn't matter. That's my submission. I mean, that's my
so the dream karma is being exhausted, right? It is being
yes, sir.
exhausted. Yeah, it's
Yes,
okay.
sir.
The punyam and papam of the dreamer will get exhausted.
But it does not get into the as an agami karma.
Sorry?
It's not an agami karma. It's not
Yes.
an agami karma. The dream
Yes.
experience is deluded
Yes.
to the jiva, mind
Correct.
and body, as to the sakshi, the jiva is deluded. The mind and body itself does not exist.
Correct.
So
yes.
the karma phalam is limited to the jiva.
Exactly.
And the choices that we make in our experiences as a jiva
Yeah.
is what construes as agami karma, which eventually then becomes the part of the sanchit karma. And then when we bring in that fistful of rice, it becomes prarabdha karma. So I think in the Vyavharika level, we need to be very clear that at this level of reality, the mind and body, which I call as jiva, and this world of name and form, are experiencing the whole, I mean, so anything outside this, so for the dream, it's the dreamer is not the waker. I don't know if I'm able to make that.
Yeah. What you're saying is right, Deepak. See, they say that all of us are experiencing our prarabdha karma in the waking state.
Yes, that's what. Yeah.
All of us, there is no doubt on this. The law of karma says you are experiencing your karma phalam in the waking state as per the law of karma.
Law of karma.
What they say is there are certain karmas which you have done as a jiva in the past, which does not require a full-fledged waking state, but those subtle prarabdha karmas can be exhausted in the dream state. So the waking state is for exhaustion of certain prarabdha karma. Dream state is also a world where you can exhaust some of the punya papam, but they are subtle, much more subtle in nature. In that, it requires only a dream world to exhaust those karmas.
I may be a pauper in the dream state, but I'm not the pauper and the jiva.
It is only so
the dreamer is separate from the waking.
Correct. As long as you consider yourself and you have transcended the body and mind, all these karma and karma phalams do not have any hold on you, the consciousness. The jiva, we call it the jiva only when it is connected with the mind and the body. The moment you consider that I am the consciousness, then you are no longer the jiva, you are Brahman. You are no longer the jiva. The word jiva, jivatvam, when you say, it means law of prarabdha karma is on. And it can go on in the waking state or in the dream state.
So can I summarize this, sir? As long as we are living in the mind, we are under the influence of karma, whether awake or dreaming.
Yes. You're right.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. There's one more small question, not related. So your slides are very, very good. Which software do you use, or how do you make those amazing? Is there a special thing you're using?
Oh, no, it's just a simple PowerPoint. You keep typing, that's software.
Okay.
You're just
Sir,
typing.
amazing, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? These are very, very deep analysis of even Mandukya Upanishad in Panchadasi chapter 1.
This can be another Karyakari.
Yeah, these are all very deep topics being analyzed in very crisp manner by Vidyaranya. That is why Panchadasi is very, very famous. You're bringing all the knowledge or whatever you have learned into crisp form in 3 verses. Waking, dream, and sleep is completely explained by Vidyaranya.
I also want to once more clarify, just to pursue this point, that for the waker, the dream world does not exist. As for Sakshi, the jiva and the world of name and form does not exist.
The waking world doesn't exist for Sakshi, that's all.
But for the waker, the dream world does not exist. The question of karma, phalam of the dream world impacting the jiva also does not exist. Does not exist.
See, these are this law of karma, the theory of law of karma is only useful only as a waker.
As a waker. It's not for any other.
Not for the reality, not for Atma. Atma is always Ananda Sarupa. That is why they keep on saying, the moment you transcend, you see, that transcending is the most challenging for all the seekers. How do I drop the mind? And that is the beauty of these 3 verses, 3, 4, 5. It helps me to understand that there is a common factor in all the 3 states.
The other point going forward, Shekharji, is that the substratum of the dream world is the subject I of jiva, which is here. The jiva is the substratum of the dream world, as Sakshi is the substratum of the jiva, of the mind
waking
and body.
World. You can call it from that.
You can call it that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just listen to these verses. Let your mind just go through these verses, listen. This is what is called as Shravana. When your mind goes through these verses, it will undergo a transformation. When the mind undergoes the transformation, it will change. It will change. It will learn to drop all our problems, and slowly it will try to remain as Atma. That is why we are studying all this text. What happens is we study this waking state again and again, dream state again and again, sleep state again and again. And we talk about the Panchabhutas. While learning this and hearing these, what happens is that our mind is becoming subtler and subtler, and it gets purified to understand the higher nature, which is called as Atma. You should always remember this point. Why do I come to the class? I listen. For 1.5 hours, I listen. When I listen, what happens? My mind is getting purified. See, it's a very subtle process. It is happening. You don't know that it is happening, but it happens. Over a period of another 1 or 2 years, you will say, my understanding of Atma is much, much better today compared to what I had, say, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. You yourself will feel it. So that is the beauty of these verses. Anybody else has any other questions? Okay, if not, then we'll close for today. Namaste, and see you next week. We'll continue this journey of learning the first chapter, and this type of analysis you can never see in any other texts. They are very beautiful analysis.
So we love you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Hari Om. Namaste.
Hari Om, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
sir.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you, Neeta.
Namaste.